On October 9th, 2024, just past 3 in the afternoon, a black SUV rolled into my shop with a complaint that did not match anything written on the work order. The owner did not say his car would not start. He did not say it was leaking fluid. He did not say a check engine light was on. He said something far more specific. Every time he shifted into park, he heard a heavy clunk. And every morning when he tried to shift back out of park, the lever fought him for a second before releasing. Like the transmission was holding its breath. He had been ignoring it for almost 6 months. By the time he reached me, a dealership had already written him an estimate just under $4,200, and the symptoms were getting worse by the week. Today, I am exposing the 2-second habit, quietly destroying transmissions in driveways across the country, the tiny part most drivers have never heard of, and the simple change in routine that prevents the most expensive repair in modern automatic vehicles. Once you understand how this damage actually happens, you will never park your car the same way again. I have been wrenching on transmissions for over 20 years, and I can tell you without hesitation that this single failure mode is the most preventable, the most misunderstood, and the most lucrative for shops who never bother to explain how it started. The driver does not feel anything dramatic. There is no sudden grinding. There is no warning light. There is just a clunk that gets a little louder over time. And then one day, often on a slight slope, the car actually rolls while it is in park. And that is when the panic begins. The man standing beside me that afternoon had no idea his transmission had been bleeding to death from an injury he was inflicting on it himself, twice a day, every day, for 6 straight years. Here is the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. When you shift your car into park, you are not engaging a brake. You are not locking the wheels. You are not commanding any system to hold the vehicle in place electronically. What you are actually doing is forcing a small piece of hardened steel, often no bigger than your thumb, to drop into a notched gear spinning on the output shaft of your transmission. That piece of steel is called the parking pawl. It is the only thing keeping your car from rolling when it is in park, and it is one of the smallest, most overworked components in the entire drivetrain. The pawl was never engineered to hold the weight of your car. It was engineered to act as a backup, holding a stationary vehicle on level ground while the parking brake does the actual work. That is the design intent. That is what every transmission engineer factored into the metallurgy, the tolerances, and the load ratings. But that is not how almost anyone uses it. Most drivers come to a stop, slide the lever into park, take their foot off the brake, and step out of the car. That sequence sounds harmless. It feels harmless. The car does not move. The dashboard looks fine. Everything seems normal. But what just happened inside the transmission tells a different story. The moment that lever moves to park, the pawl drops into the parking gear. If the car is still rolling, even an inch per second, the pawl slams into a moving tooth under load. If the car is sitting on a slope, even a slight one, gravity instantly pulls the entire weight of the vehicle against that tiny piece of metal. 3,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds, 5,000 pounds in some trucks, all of it resting on a part smaller than a finger. This is why so many drivers hear that distinctive clunk when they shift out of park on a hill. That sound is not normal. It is the pawl finally releasing under tension, springing back after holding the entire mass of the vehicle for hours, sometimes days. The driver thinks the noise is just the transmission settling. It is not. It is metal flexing under stress that should never have been there in the first place. And every single time it happens, microscopic damage accumulates. The pawl tip wears. The gear teeth round off at the corners. Tiny stress fractures form deep inside the hardened steel where no scan tool will ever detect them. None of it triggers a code. None of it shows up on a diagnostic. None of it makes itself obvious in the early years. Until one morning, on a steeper grade than usual, the pawl finally cannot hold anymore. It either chips, shears clean off, or skips out of the notch entirely. The car rolls, sometimes into a fence, sometimes into another vehicle, sometimes into a busy road. And the bill that follows is staggering. Replacing a parking pawl is not a swap-it-and-go job. The pawl lives deep inside the transmission case. To reach it, the entire transmission has to be removed from the vehicle, partially disassembled, the damaged pawl and often the parking gear replaced, then the unit reinstalled and refilled. Labor alone runs between $1,500 and $3,000, depending on the vehicle. If the gear teeth are damaged or the case is scored, you are looking at a partial or complete rebuild, and now you are firmly in $4,000 to $6,000 territory for something that was entirely preventable. Now here is the part most shops will never say out loud. Almost every parking pawl failure I have ever seen was self-inflicted. Not by a defective transmission, not by bad fluid, not by mileage alone. By a 2-second mistake, the driver repeated thousands of times over the life of the vehicle. The mistake is not what most people think. It is not aggressive driving. It is not skipping fluid changes. It is the order of operations at the end of every single trip. Most drivers do this. Come to a stop, shift to park, then engage the parking brake, if they bother to use it at all. That sequence is backwards, and it is the entire reason the pawl ends up taking the load. By the time the parking brake gets engaged, the pawl has already dropped into the gear under whatever weight the car was resting on. The parking brake does nothing to relieve that load. The damage is already done. Every single time. The correct sequence, the one printed into nearly every owner's manual, but almost never explained or enforced, is this. Come to a complete stop. Keep your foot firmly on the brake. Engage the parking brake fully, then shift to park, then release the service brake. When you do it in that order, the parking brake holds the entire weight of the vehicle. The pawl drops into a completely unloaded gear. There is no clunk. There is no tension. There is no metal grinding against metal under stress. The pawl is finally doing exactly what it was designed to do: act as a backup, not a primary anchor. This is a roughly 2-second difference in routine. 2 seconds. That is the entire fix. Engage the parking brake before you shift to park, and you will likely never face this repair in your lifetime. Skip it, and you are gambling every single day with one of the most expensive components in your car. There is one more wrinkle most drivers never consider. The damage is not linear, it is exponential. A flat parking spot is forgiving. The pawl barely has to hold anything because gravity is not pulling against it. But the moment you park on even a 5% grade, the load on the pawl multiplies dramatically. On a steeper driveway, in a parking garage with sloped ramps, or in any hilly suburb, the load can quietly exceed what the pawl was tested for, every time. In cold weather, hardened steel becomes more brittle. Fractures spread faster. What would have been 10 years of slow wear in flat state Florida becomes 3 years of accelerated failure in a hilly northern winter. This is also why owners of trucks, sport utility vehicles, and full-size vehicles see this failure more often than sedan owners. Heavier vehicle, same little pawl. The math is unforgiving. A 6,000-pound pickup creates exactly twice the static load on the parking pawl as a 3,000-pound compact car on the same incline, same part. Twice the stress, half the lifespan. And manufacturers do not upgrade the pawl proportionally. They cannot. The transmission case, the gear set, and the geometry around the pawl are designed once and shared across multiple vehicle weights. What still surprises me after all these years is how rarely this is explained to drivers. The information is in the owner's manual. It is taught in technician school. It is documented in every factory service procedure I have ever opened. And yet, I have asked thousands of drivers over the years whether they engage the parking brake before shifting to park, and the answer is almost always no, especially in automatic transmission vehicles. People assume the parking brake is only for emergencies. They assume park is enough. They assume that because the car does not move, nothing is being damaged. None of those assumptions are true. The parking brake is not an emergency brake. It is a parking brake. The name is literal. It is the component you are supposed to use to actually hold the car when it is parked. The pawl is the redundancy in case the cable stretches or the brake fails. When the system is used the way it was designed, the pawl never takes meaningful load, and a transmission can run past 300,000 miles without ever stressing the parking gear. When it is used incorrectly, the pawl can fail in under 100,000 miles, sometimes much sooner on hills or in heavy vehicles. And here is the kicker. Once the pawl is damaged, even slightly, the failure accelerates. A worn pawl tip cannot fully engage. It rides higher in the gear. It takes more lateral stress. The damage compounds week by week. By the time the car actually rolls while in park, the pawl has been failing silently for months, sometimes years. This is also why drivers who first learned on manual transmissions almost never see parking pawl failures. In a manual car, the parking brake has to be part of the routine because there is no park gear at all. The brake is the anchor. When those drivers transitioned to automatics, they kept the habit. Their muscle memory still respects the brake. Drivers who learned only on automatics never developed that muscle memory. They trust the lever. The lever quietly destroys their transmission. I have watched a perfectly healthy transmission turn into an invoice for $4,500 over a habit a driver could have changed in one afternoon. I have watched cars roll out of driveways and into walls because a single pawl finally gave up. And I have watched too many drivers stand in my shop staring at an estimate, asking the same question. How can such a tiny part destroy my entire transmission? And the answer is always the same. It did not destroy itself. It was being asked to do a job it was never designed for, every single day, for years. So if you take only one thing from this video, take this. From now on, every time you stop your car, do it in this order. Come to a complete stop. Hold the service brake, set the parking brake, shift to park, release the service brake. That is it. 2 extra seconds. The car will feel different almost immediately. The clunk when shifting out of park will disappear. The lever will move freely instead of fighting you. And invisibly, deep inside that aluminum case, the parking pawl will begin to live a completely different life. No load, no fatigue, no microfractures, just a part doing exactly what it was engineered to do. That is the real cost of the 2-second habit. Not the part, not the labor, not even the inconvenience. It is the slow, invisible compounding of stress on a component nobody ever told you to protect. And once you know about it, the fix is completely free. If this changed how you think about parking your car, hit like so more drivers see it. Subscribe if you want more mechanic-level breakdowns that save you real money instead of costing it. Drop a comment telling me whether you knew about the parking pawl before today. Most drivers do not. That is exactly why this repair stays so common, and exactly why the next video will expose another silent habit destroying transmissions long before their time. The transmission you save tomorrow is the one you stop overloading today.